Welcome to Chromatic Roses, a podcast where a couple of women cultivate a community at the D&D table. I'm Soren.
And I'm Caitie. This week in the Rose Garden, we are revisiting whether or not y'all are assholes.
I hope none of y'all are assholes.
We are back on r/ DnD AITA, otherwise known as Am I the Asshole? And we have picked up about 5 different threads to look at today of figuring out whether these people are in fact the asshole or not.
Are you the asshole?
Are you? It's a whole thing. So without further ado.
Not your wait for it mug. That's kind of perfect for today.
You're right. And it's not what's the guy from How I Met Your Mother?
Oh, it's not Barney. It's Hamilton, isn't it?
It is Hamilton. In the middle.
That's great.
You can't see it now because there's coffee in there, but at the bottom there's a star with the logo.
That's so good.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to start with an easy one. It literally says softball. Am I the asshole?
You can see all my Reddit threads now.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Well, mine's like, yeah, anyway. Softball. Am I the asshole for adding clinging too hard to technicalities? Okay, well, we're going to pretend like that sentence made sense, and we're going to keep going. This was years ago, and it's literally nothing, but I think about it sometimes. Relatable.
That sounds like a Sam intro to a thing. This means nothing, but
I think about it
sometimes.
Yeah. A few years ago, there was a point in a campaign where Paladin decided to go full tank in a fight with a massive horde of zombies, sacrificing his Nova damage with a maul for just a sword and shield for as much AC as he could. Okay. Additionally, I gave him a magic item that gave him the ability to cast the shield spell a number of times, and one of the components for it is somatic, requiring hand gestures, and you cannot do so with a sword and shield in your hand. Furthermore, you can't stow a weapon as part of your reaction for shield. Am I the asshole for being a rules lawyer DM in this case and having him free action drop his sword to cast the spell, which led an enemy to steal the sword?
My initial inclination is to say no. I don't think that makes you an asshole.
There are no comments on this one, so we get to just free ball a little bit. So what I am going to say about this is I think some rule of cool could apply here.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
Because you gave me the thing that allows me to cast shield. You gave that to me.
Right.
So if I'm in combat trying to use that, and you're like, well, no, actually, you have to drop all your shit in order to cast the spell, I would be like, then why'd you give this to me?
Agreed.
Why is this helpful? I gave him a magic item that gave him the ability to cast the shield spell. So also, I would go into some semantics here to say, you gave me a magic item to cast the spell. It is not me casting the spell. The magic item casts the spell.
Yeah, so no, I can agree with that.
In that sense, I think rather than a sorcerer who casts the spell has to do
has to actually do stuff.
You gave me a magic item that I break or I invoke or I push a button or something, or I throw it in the air, or, whatever. And that is the thing that casts the spell.
Yeah, it's the trigger.
I could maybe, if I'm holding a sword and a shield, and I have to interact with the magic item, I can understand that, maybe. But then I would want to talk to you in combat about how I can make it so I don't have to drop everything on the ground, allowing someone else to steal my weapon to invoke this magic item. Could I quickly like rest my shield on the ground, throw the item and pick it back up. Like I feel like I could do that within 6 seconds. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Or, you know,
Mhm.
like if it can fit into a round, I feel like I should be able to like.
I agree.
I think it sucks that you gave your player an item that they couldn't use.
Yeah, because I mean, then that's the illusion of. I'm trying to think of a word to describe it. It's an illusion of usefulness. It's an illusion of like
Yeah.
benefit.
Yeah.
When you're not actually getting to utilize it.
And I mean, maybe there was a different workaround. Maybe I'm missing a workaround that allows you to use this. Maybe instead of rushing in, this person was intended to have used the magical item like at the top of combat rather the middle of combat. So like
Mm-hmm.
before their shield and sword is out, they
Mm-hmm.
use this item. But in that case, that's I think what I would have said instead of just saying like, well, you have to drop your sword. I would have said, yeah, so you have to interact with this item and you don't currently have a free hand.
Yeah.
So the intent is that you have to use this before you start fighting or
Yeah.
have to be in a place where you can have free hands before you interact with this magic item.
Right. And I think posing it that way allows the player to like revisit and problem solve that. And they're like,
Mhm.
oh, shoot. Like instead of someone telling you, hey, drop your sword because you have to,
Mhm.
the player can go, okay, do I actually want to use this ability right now
Yeah.
then? Or should I wait until I have a free hand to do
Yeah.
something with it?
So I would say I don't know. The jury's out on whether you're an asshole because it has to do with whether or not you gave this person a magic item knowing full well that they wouldn't be able to use it in combat, or
Mm-hmm.
if you had a different intention behind it.
Yep.
But even if you had a different intention behind it, in my opinion, you should have had to say that. Like even when you give like when you're bestowing this character with the magic item, saying like, "Hey, heads up, you're going to have to interact with this in order to
Mm-hmm.
use it. So just keep that in mind. You're going to have a free hand in order to activate this magic item."
Yeah. So we're going to say,
Maybe keep thinking about it. It happened a long
yeah.
time ago and it's kind of nothing and you kind of think about it sometimes. Maybe you should be. Reflect some more because the jury's still out.
Put a part 2 to this. Give us more context.
Yeah, right. Okay.
All right. Am I reading this one?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. Am I overthinking or am I the asshole? And there's a tag on here called bad character design, just for reference. Okay. I am playing a rogue blood hunter character in a long running campaign of 3 years, and I am starting to feel looked over. I'm the only non spellcaster in the party. Artificer, sorcerer, druid, wizard, and cleric are the rest of the party members. And we just finished a mission to save, I'm assuming, a water elemental. And in the end, we leveled up. The cleric got his vestige hammer. Oh, sorry. The cleric got his vestige hammer upgraded. It now allows him to do essentially an extra attack with it. In the last 8 months, I have been feeling rather underpowered and sort of left behind. For clarity, there was a 6-month period where, for story reasons, I do that, I lost access to my Lycan Blood Hunter transformation and was essentially cut off from a subclass feature for that period of time. No one else has had that happen to them. Also, everyone else has gotten custom made vestiges while I was just given the vanilla hide. If the vanilla hide of the Feral Guardian, essentially a +3 studded leather armor with a once a day polymorph to turn into a giant owl or a bear or a guardian wolf, big monstrosity, and that's it. The spellcasters have access to third party spells, and anytime I try to ask if I could use if I could try using a new mechanic or ability from the same sources, usually from Kobold Press, I am always met with "we will see," which seems to mean never, or it's unbalanced. So it's fine for the spellcasters to get all these new spells, but you can't spare a single mechanic for the one lone martial class. Meanwhile, giving spellcasters custom items that are both flavorful synergizes with the rest of their abilities. I can't even try to be creative in situations or combat anymore. All the big battles happen in empty rooms with no way to use the environment to my advantage. And even if I see a chance to try something, it's always a ridiculously high DC. For the record, I'm not trying to insta-kill an enemy. I just want to do things like trip it up or distract it. So I often end up wasting my turn, not damaging the enemy or helping the party. And also, for the last 3 story arcs, for some reason, I always have to roll a con save. And for some reason, as soon as I fail one, it's an instant exhaustion, and I am stuck with disadvantage on my skills for the next 3 to 5 sessions. I am at my peak frustration, and that's only for one campaign. Recently, in the second one he hosts, I play a support bard, and I try to stay in the back to help allies and stay out of danger. And yet, all the enemies are oh so
Keen.
Thank you. Are oh so keen to get to me. I partially see it as he has gotten lazy with DMing, and also because of the nature of the game, high-level spells trivialize things, and he is trying to keep it challenging, but being forced to make bad rolls for a month's worth of sessions is not challenging, it's agonizing. Next story arc, if I am forced to make another con save or some other save that causes a detriment to my character and no one else has to make that same save, I am leaving. The game is just not fun anymore, and I don't want to be OP. I just want to be able to be on the same footing as the party, and as a DM, part of that should be helping the players. I tried talking to him once and thought it got through to him, but it seems not. I don't have time to waste on people who don't listen when I am being genuine and putting it all out there with how I feel. If he disregards and keeps putting me and my character as the punching bags of the campaign, I'm done. What do you think? Sorry for the wall of text. I'm just so frustrated. No comments yet.
Yeah. Another free ballin'.
Yeah.
So I know you said that you talked to him. Here's what I'm gonna throw out. Take it or leave it. And Soren, feel free to disagree with me.
Mm-hmm.
I think something to remember, and I have heard mostly Grant and Sam talk about this. I don't know that I've heard TJ talk about it at length, but of the people in our group who have DM'd is basically what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Balancing is really hard. Balancing combat is really hard. And let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 plus you is 6. It's a 6-person party.
That's a lot of people.
It is a lot of people. And we don't know what level you're at, but it seems like you're getting up there, right? Because you've leveled up a few times and they're getting access to new things and whatever.
Right.
So my number one takeaway is balancing campaigns, balancing combat is difficult, especially when you have a lot of player characters and they're getting higher level. So I know you said you talked to him. My recommendation based on all of this, and I'm not even going to get personally, I'm not going to get into the like he's giving them stuff and not giving me stuff because I don't fully understand where all that is coming from, whether it's just within leveling up your character or whatever. It looks like talking about vestiges, that makes me think of Critical Role's campaign setting. So it seems like you're hunting down vestiges or something. Anyway, regardless. My recommendation would be to talk to him after a session where it happens. So don't let time pass. Don't sit on it for 3 months. Like you have to make a con save and it pulls one of your stuff away or it makes you roll bad on ability checks. Immediately after that session, maybe even immediately once he calls for it, pull him aside and say, hey, DM, can we chat for a second? And then you go into a different room and you say, this is what I'm talking about. This is the thing I was talking about earlier. What's the purpose of this? Can you help me understand why this keeps happening? and let him say something to you. And if there's a reason for it, you can decide whether that reason is good enough or not.
Yeah.
But like, call it out as it happens rather than going home and mulling it over and getting angry and getting resentful and then talking about it 3 months later. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. What are your thoughts?
I think, yeah, I agree with that. I think there's, with any am I the asshole post, like, there's so much context that, like, we don't have about your personal relationships with your party. And I think I can relate a tiny bit to this person in that, the campaign that we currently play, we made the joke that's oops, all casters. And it seems like you have a good chunk of casters too in your party. And every once in a while, like, I would see the rest of my party mates like leveling up. We all generally leveled up like around the same time, or when like a big milestone was reached. But I chose to play a rogue. I did go into Arcane Trickster because I wanted some casting, but because I'm like dominantly a sneaky rogue, like, I am not gonna have nearly as much like cool magic-y casty stuff like as the rest of everybody else. So there were times where I would watch them level up and get extra stuff, and I'm like, I'm still stuck with like this little teeny tiny list.
Yeah.
But that's just the nature of the character I chose.
Right.
And there could be some differences that I don't quite understand when it comes to blood hunters, because I'm not familiar fully with their like casting ability. But I think it also reflects a pattern that we all deal with growing up and like becoming adults in general, is like, everybody else seems like they're all getting all of this cool, neat stuff, and I feel like I'm left in the dust. So I say that to say I agree with Caitie. She's right above me. I agree with Caitie. I don't think you're an asshole. I do think you might be slightly overthinking, but it's okay to feel frustrated, and it's okay to be like angry about this. But if you do nothing but simmer with it, that's when you can become an asshole.
Right.
Like, if you do nothing but ruminate on it, that's not going to help anything. So if you want things to get better, I would suggest what Caitie recommended.
And in general, I think, like, remember that as players, we come to the table with our character sheet and our notes, and the DM comes to the table with a lot more. Like, they are responsible for a lot more. And so keeping track or making sure that your character feels special, or that you feel special, your character feels taken care of, is not something that they can do all of the time.
Yeah.
And it sounds like you feel like you've been passed over a lot, but I want to give like a shroud of empathy to your DM of just like, they're having to balance combat and make sure the story hook is interesting and make sure that each character feels like the story hook is interesting. And just like, there's a lot that they have to do that they are responsible for every single session. So having one conversation with your DM one time and feeling like you laid it all out and you really bared yourself to this person, it might just require some reminding. And I would be an advocate of giving your DM some grace in that sense. And just like I said, like, calling it out as it happens, saying like, hey man, I'm not trying to be a jerk, but this is what I was talking about before, and I feel like you're doing it again. So I'm just curious what your thought process here is, because it's really, and I would say, I'm trying to pull a quote that you actually said here. Oh, the game is just not fun anymore. I would say that. I would say like, hey man, this is starting to not be fun for me. I'm not trying to be OP. I just want to be on the same footing as the party. And I've thought you, like, part of what your job was as the DM was to help me do that. And I feel like that's not happening right now. And let them talk about it. And if they come back and they say like, I don't know, man, this is just how I play. This is just how I DM. Then you can be like, all right, well then this isn't a good fit for me and I'm out. Or
Yeah.
if they come back and give like I know, I'm trying to do this, and this and that, and here was my plan, and this is what I'm trying to do. Maybe that might be enough for you to say like, okay, they're trying, but they're just struggling to keep me at the forefront. I
Yeah.
can manage this, like
Yeah.
whatever.
And you said something that triggered a thought, but
You said, oh, when I said, if the DM comes back and says, this is just how I'm doing it, then.
yes. So like DMs have to, like, there are like two pieces here that I'm thinking. DMs have to balance a lot. They deserve grace. And there are also DMs that are just assholes, and could be featured on this page. So like, use your discretion. We're not saying all DMs are blameless and deserve all the grace, but I think there's room for that in this situation. I think there's room for grace for both of you, but I think you have the opportunity to be more direct with your communication. And I think what I would emphasize is something Caitie already said, which is don't delay. Don't wait and let it fester. Go ahead and let it out. Some of the best like arguments or conversations that I've had with friends and family is because I didn't wait.
Yeah. And I think it's fair to don't feel like you have to wait until the session's over. If, you don't have to go home and then let everything calm down and then go. Like, you can interrupt the session. It's okay. You can pull the DM aside mid-session and say like, hey man, I want to talk about this really quick. That's also fine. So yeah, I agree. Not all DMs are fully blameless. And the thing that I think Soren said, we're constantly missing context as to your relationship with these people. Yeah. So like, I'm very much taking it under the guise of like our own group. Yeah. Of just like, if this was a problem in our own group, I think this is how we would expect to be able to handle it. So anyway, okay. Last one for this phase 1 is how I always list it in my notes. This one's a long one. Am I the asshole for TPKing my party and causing someone to quit playing D&D forever?
Yeah, I'm excited because you get to read this one.
We said full drama all the time. Okay, context A. I've long time DM'd for a really long campaign that has been going on for a couple of years now. Just me and a couple of friends taking D&D. Occasionally, new players from different friend groups would show up, and we do derail the sessions every now and then for another player to DM or one-shots. Okay, so we've got a long-running campaign that is between a few friends, and every once in a while we'll take breaks from that campaign to do miscellaneous stuff. Got it. B, the group's fourth mainstay player joined in after around 1 year of playing. He showed interest since the start, but couldn't join due to a critical year of high school and repeating a year. Okay. Some context here that I am pulling for myself is that they are in high school. That's
what told you that?
This says just that it said high school. The fact that the words high school were used. So we've got a long-term campaign that takes breaks every once in a while for miscellaneous other stuff. A fourth member joined, but he couldn't, and he was interested from the start, but he couldn't join because he had a really important year of high school and repeated a year. But okay. C, all the players have a long history of fights.
For those who are listening solely, Caitie just grabbed the bridge of her nose and sighed.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
All the players have a long history of fights between different members, and mainly the fourth player. Good. Me being the oldest and the one friend connecting them. No, save yourself. Okay. I always feel responsible for trying to mediate fights and fix relationship grudges. My friend.
I know that person. I've seen that person in the mirror.
All right. My like
Your wait for it mug is ready.
well, and my like teacher brain is turning on a little bit of just like
no.
talking to students. So here we go. All right, so those are the 3 points of context. So we have a long-standing campaign that derails now and then. The fourth player has been interested in a long time, but joined late because of repeating a year in high school. And all the players have a long history of fights, and this DM is the oldest and feels responsible for keeping the group together. Perfect. We have a rogue, a cleric turned paladin, and the problematic player being a rune knight barbarian. I'm glad they're just labeled as the problematic player. Okay.
It helps us understand a little quicker.
Yeah, a rogue, a cleric turned paladin, and a rune knight barbarian who's a problem. The game is a perfectly average D&D world.
Perfectly average.
But the idea of rare and legendary items are available to everyone, and they are cheap.
Okay.
Why?
Yeah.
Like for 50 gold, you can get a flame tongue sword with custom fire effects and damage types. Brother, hey.
Why? Hey, wait. I'm going to do it in my softest voice ever. Why?
I just like, okay, I'm interested to see if that gets explained, but like, what good does that do? Okay, except forgive your players OP items that you then have to balance for, but okay. I always made available upgrades and magic items from books and magically items from books that will provide feats to rings that change character abilities to whatnot, and keep asking my players for ideas and anything they'd like to be put in the game.
Hold on, can we break that down?
Okay, it's high school. It's okay.
They
don't have to know how to use complete sentences. I always made available upgrades and magically items from books. I'm going to remove
magic items from books.
Yeah, that will provide feats to rings that change character abilities.
Rings?
So, I don't know. I'm going to guess that some of the magic items, what I'm interpreting that as, there are magic items that are rings, like rings, that provide feats.
Okay. That makes sense.
And then the DM also is always asking their players for ideas and anything they'd like to be put in the game.
Got it.
Okay, so my fully decked out party, while being level 14, 15, they can handle killing ancient dragons and the like on a regular basis. This is what I'm saying. Your party is unbalanced. They should not be level 14, 15 and able to just like one shot an ancient dragon. That's crazy.
That's, to quote Caitie, that's nutso butso.
Nutso butso. Okay. And they are usually accompanied by an NPC with a clear set of abilities, an alchemist that gives haste, etc. I made sure not to make overpowered encounters against them. Oh, why? Okay, sure. But use enemies that play to their weaknesses or nullify some of their abilities. For example, make the party fight a Sibriax that can't be sneak damaged by stealth alone, or the party's necrotic DPS facing an enemy with immunity to necrotic damage. Okay. I mean, I see what you're doing, but you have a level 14, 15 party that's fully decked out in magic items. So like, good try. I see what you're doing, but it might not be enough. Anyway, making sure everyone gets their time to shine and have a fun role playing and planning. I see. Well-intentioned. I understand. The issue really simmered after our problematic player had a few nasty fights with everyone involved. Except for the DM, which is you, right? And except for the DM, and he held a deep-seated grudge against everyone, and the DM for not standing with him against the other players. Is the DM the poster?
Hold on, well, they say I've been DMing for really long, a campaign that's run for a long time.
So you mean to say...
So you're using
except
third
for
and first person.
High school, man. It's hard.
2,000 years later.
I started to piece it and then I lost it.
It kind of seems like maybe the original poster is excluding themselves. So he had the problem player had a few nasty fights with everyone involved except for the DM. The problematic player held a deep-seated grudge against everyone, and the DM was not standing with him against the other players.
So the problematic player holding a deep-seated grudge against everyone and the DM for not standing with him.
Yeah.
Against other players.
Yeah. So I'm going to pause here for a second because we're going to there's still somehow more. You're in high school. Anybody who has a deep-seated grudge in high school doesn't know what a deep-seated grudge is. It's not that deep. And why are you playing with these people? If there's this level of turmoil against player to player, find a different group. This sounds stressful. You have too many other things to think about. Do your homework.
Yeah.
Okay. So continuing on somehow. But everything cooled down after a while. The adventure, thank God. The adventures continued and the party took part in a tournament. Explored multiple dungeons, killed a dragon, went to hell and back, had arguments with a few gods, and all was fine. ... Until, after a specially harrowing exploration into a dungeon made by a crafty goblin that has been causing problems to the party. And that's when everything apparently went downhill. The party, after barely making it through a fight, and one player had to roll saving throws, they started berating the barbarian, who we can remember from before is the problem. Great. For almost killing them. The party barely making it through a fight, and one player had to roll saving throws. They started berating the barbarian for almost killing them.
Yeah, there are commas. There are places commas need to be.
Instead of periods? Yeah.
Correct.
Hey, original poster, come here. Are you sleeping in English?
Well, okay, so my younger coworkers will harp on me for this, but they'll make jokes about they know that I'm old because I use correct punctuation.
Okay, that's not about being old, that's about being intelligent.
Well, see, the internet and Discord and TikTok and texting, we learned a lot of punctuation by middle school and didn't have phones. I had T9 texting when I first got that, and I'm not giving them an out. I'm just saying I know there are tons of things that have encouraged bad punctuation, leading to bad comprehension.
This is not about whether you're the asshole or not, but here is what I'm going to tell you. And this is what I tell all of my students. So get close and sit your ass down. I know it feels funny and silly and goofy to seem stupid right now. It feels funny and silly and goofy to seem stupid now. But when you're 30 and working and trying to have adult relationships with adults, being stupid is no longer funny. It's sad. I've said this to my students. Because
she said this to her 6-year-old student.
Not my 6-year-old students, my teenagers.
I'm kidding.
Because here's why. Here's why I say this. Because I have some dancers who come to me and they're like, LOL, where's Africa? And it's not funny. It's sad. And so you having bad grammar, you can blame on the TikToks and the Discords and the whatever. But when you have to write an email to somebody in your office and you want them to give you a raise or do something for you and you have bad grammar, if I got this as an email, I'd be like, I don't think you are able to do the things that I'm going to ask you to do. So no.
Thankfully, oh yeah, you finish. Nope, you go.
This is the last thing I'm going to say. I field internships for Pinewood, as well as a little bit for my job, but like less so. If this is how you DM'd the Pinewood Facebook page asking for an internship, the answer would be no.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't think you're taking this seriously, one, and two, your grammar is such that I don't know what your level of education is.
Not us just ripping on a high schooler on Reddit.
Just use commas.
I was going to add to the end of this.
Yeah.
Thankfully, you're in high school. You have
good news.
You have so much life ahead of you. This was such a silly tangent, but it is important. It is important because, I mean, look, we slightly derailed our episode just so we could talk about how we're struggling to comprehend what you're trying to get across.
Grammar is important because it helps us make sense of what we're reading, right? Like, that's the point of it a little bit. So if you're sitting here listening to us trying to read this article and you're like, Christ, yeah, I agree. Okay. So for any high schoolers that listen to this podcast, hi, you're probably one of my students. Grammar is important. Okay. Okay. Do you believe me now? Grammar is important.
You got that?
Okay. I'm begging you. Honestly, at this point, this is me begging. Please use commas. Okay.
Commas more than any other thing.
Honestly.
Please just use commas where
know
they
what
go.
A complete sense is. And
misspelling, totally fine.
I can handle that. Yeah. I misspell stuff all the time.
The brain can fill in that gap and go, I see what they meant, but not with context.
Anyway, back to
it's harder. Anyway, where the heck were we?
Who knows? Okay, the party, after barely making it through, this is what it was. Through the fight, and one player had to roll saving throws, and they started berating the barbarian, period, for almost killing them, period. Yeah. This caused the barbarian to lash out at the party, sticking for the rest of the session, then to be leaving them to head to the final BBEG layer.
Did you mean ditching?
See, replay the last minute of podcast. Okay. We're gonna make it through this paragraph.
Yeah.
We're gonna make it.
Yep.
Okay. This caused the barbarian to lash out at the party. Let's pretend it's ditching them for the rest of the session to head to the final BBEG layer.
Yes. Wow. Sometimes omission is the best punctuation.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just take out words that aren't necessary.
Reread it out loud before hitting submit. Taking with him one of the beloved NPCs who has been with the party for a few sessions.
Huh, that's interesting.
Everyone tried to reason with him, and I ended up doing a one-on-one session with just the barbarian. Long story short, babe, this hasn't been a long... You're not making it short. This is long story long. Yeah. The character ended up dying.
Causing the barbarian or the NPC?
Seems like it, yeah. Causing the NPC to sacrifice herself for him so he can go out. He ended up going deeper into the dungeon to die at the hand of the BBEG. Okay.
No, so the NPC died.
Both of them died.
Oh, I see now. Yep.
The NPC sacrificed herself to allow him to go deeper. He went deeper and tried to fight the big bad evil guy and died because he tried to do it by himself.
Yep.
The player never forgave this and threw a fit about how all this is unfair and how bad I am for not making D&D fun. I took it in stride and managed to calm another fight between the players. Honey, this is not worth it.
I as much as we harped on you for your punctuation, all of that aside, you very clearly, at least to me through reading this, it seems like you want your friends to have fun. And it seems like you want to bring people together to have a good time. And for
Yeah.
that, like, I commend you. I'm
Yeah.
so sorry that you feel like you are responsible for making sure everybody is nice to each other. That's really tough.
There have been several paragraphs where I've stopped and said, "Get out, get out, get out. This isn't worth it. Get out." We're not
Should we
done
like
yet.
comment once this episode's up? Should we come back and comment this timestamp of us just being like, "I'm so sorry."
And then a sub comment of the timestamp of us going on about grammar, being like, just, hey, we're so sorry. And also, just a little tip.
Literally no hate to this kid.
Literally no
I'm sorry,
hate.
I'm gonna call them a kid.
No hate. They are a kid. No hate. You are a kid. You're in high school. You're learning.
You're growing up.
This is your big sisters from Chromatic Roses telling you to pay attention in English class. Okay.
These are your crazy old lady sisters.
Everyone, fortunately for different story reasons, decided to use new characters.
Okay. Okay.
And give a little break for the older ones. There's always some tension from the players, and I tried my best to diffuse everything. Baby girl is not. You're not a girl necessarily, but baby girl is not your fault.
But
about 15 sessions with the new characters, the party fought a different boss who had some of the abilities of the dead NPCs they had, and the runes of the old rune knight for story reasons.
The old rune knight being the barbarian.
Yeah.
Okay.
The party made it through a really big boss with different phases, and for 3 sessions they fought the Goliath Chimera. But everyone ended Goliath Chimera. Aren't chimeras already huge? Anyway.
Yeah.
But everyone ended up dying due to really bad rolls, and the boss rolling double nat 20s on his last attack, taking down the problematic player.
Ouchie, ouchie.
I did my best making a nice death scene, and everyone saw their loved ones in the afterlife.
You're doing so much. You're doing so much.
And having the choice to reincarnate or move on after dying, everyone collectively agreed to make new players and start with a new party. Wow. This caused an uproar.
2 times.
Yeah, you killed everybody twice.
And then,
well, the first time, I guess they chose to change. Anyway, this caused an uproar with the problematic player blaming the party for killing his character that he worked so hard for, and for me making the game not fun and abusing my power just to ruin his fun. This hit a nerve with me after calming everyone down and ending the session, asking for notes if anyone wanted anything for the new party. I called the problematic player who just yelled at me for being this unfair to him and how cruel I am to do all of this to him, knowing how badly his already is. Okay. I told the player off on how unfair he's being for blaming the death of his character on the other party members, and when they had the same happen to them. Sure. And if he still wants to play, he should drop his nasty attitude. D&D should be fun, and it's a party game, not just you. The player ended up stopping to talk to me, and I've known him for almost a decade now, and he now blames me for ruining D&D for him. I can't help but feel guilty. Maybe he was right and I was too unfair. I don't think I can DM after this. Please, any advice on how I should have handled this better?
There are comments on this one.
There are. I want to get to it, but first my knee-jerk reaction is, I don't know who you are. This isn't your fault. This guy sucks. This guy sucks and he shouldn't be in your party. You've known him for a decade. It seems like you're very close, and it seems like he's a not so good dude. If you were my student and I knew nothing about this person and you were coming to me and saying, this person's my friend, I've known him for a decade, here's how he's treated me, I'd say, kick him to the curb.
Not literally.
A good friend. Not a good friend. And I'm making some judgments based on what you've told me about him, which is he repeated a year and is showing up like this to your D&D party where you're DMing. I'm making some judgment calls on this person, and it does not sound like they are a good person to be hanging with.
Yeah, I mean, as someone who has seen Caitie in this mental headspace, like, she's being protective of you and your situation. And I think for good reason, because I think it sucks when you have a friend that you've been friends with for so long and they just don't change and they just aren't clicking with like the group of people, regardless of if you're playing D&D or not.
Yeah.
But as a player, they're being, sorry, I don't like saying this to people who are in high school, but they're being shitty. I don't think we have episodes on like how to be a good player at the table, or ways to improve being a player at the table. And this guy is like ticking all of the like red flag boxes for what not to do as a player. When we went through like a really big character death in our campaign, not once did I ever blame the DM for killing my characters or like killing the characters that like my character was connected to.
Yeah.
And I don't think Caitie or TJ have ever blamed Sam for their characters dying, because we understand that this is a game of decisions. And to be real, we in our last Am I the Asshole, we had a person who was making wily decisions and their party was trying to get them to like be a little more conscious and like make better decisions. And this character that you're talking about is doing the same thing, where they're making decisions on their own volition, whether it's their character's idea or it's the player's idea. They are choosing to separate themselves and they're choosing actively to be a butthole. Yeah. And that's not helpful to a game that's supposed to be fun. So if he's saying that you're like ruining the fun of D&D for him, I think he needs to look in the mirror.
Yeah. Especially, so my red flag came up the first time you said like the party members are constantly fighting. That's not how this should be going.
No.
Like, especially tough for like high school. Sorry. Like this is, you guys are doing this for literally fun. Yeah. I mean, that's true. That's true of any D&D game.
Any table.
But this is supposed to be a fun time. So if you're constantly having to play mediator, it's not working the way you want it to. That's not how this should go. Yeah. So I want to start also by saying like, that's not normal. It shouldn't be playing that way. Yeah. So I think you are not the asshole. I think this player's the asshole. I think that your friends, you should not, as the DM or as a friend in just life, you should not have to constantly be mediating your other friends ever. So that's where I would start with this.
It's one thing if it's, you know, a big blowout that happens once or twice over the span of your relationships. It's another if it's a consistent problem.
Yeah. This first commenter is one that we've ran into before, Zephyr SK. You'll get different answers, of course. This is just one fellow DM player's take. As a player, I've always felt the difficulty of the encounters rests with whatever the DM is going for. The DM can just decide to TPK a party whenever, regardless of roles.
Sure.
The best fights I had were the ones that required strategy. I did not enjoy everything always being life or death.
Sure.
As a DM, all I wanted was to give a challenge, down a couple, but have accessible means to revive. Their stories were so interwoven in the main campaign that new characters meant starting over. In my experience, the sweet spot for campaigns is around 40 to 50 sessions. Any longer and the group begins to fray and DMs feel burnt out. Some players struggle with character investment, be it attachment, detachment, or finding motivation. It is not a DM's job to decide for the why they want to play, but it is a DM's job, in my view, to referee the piece and make sure all invited have a good dynamic together personality-wise.
I can agree with that. I think referee is correct.
Yeah.
I don't think constantly mediating to the degree this person, the OP is talking about.
I would also say that this that is different to me depending on the pre-existing relationships of the players.
I agree.
Because if we're all already friends, I should not have to play mediator constantly. We should be able to mediate ourselves.
And refereeing or mediating might simply be reminding of rules.
Yeah.
Or like two people forgot how something worked. And so you provide context, but not like dragouts.
Right. He goes on to say, I get the impression your problematic friend, like me when I first started, wants a version of D&D more like a story mode game because they are invested in their character and are learning as they go. The longer I play with a character, the more it absolutely sucks to have to roll a new one. However, some players are the opposite, mechanically inclined, enjoying the possibility of new class options, even when, if story-wise in RP, they're less involved. I am unclear based on your story about why the Rune Knight Barbarian feels the party constantly leaves him or doesn't stand with him, but it is my experience when a group sours on a person, it's best they leave. Regardless of who's in the right, it's a matter of incompatibility of expectations. D&D has a way of highlighting personal issues, and DMs can be poor therapists. I played with one who was an absolute control freak and made a couple of players tear up. I think there's a balance between not letting players abuse you and being so rigid that you can say you did it all by the rules, even if your table did not have fun.
I am upvoting that, first of all.
Yeah.
I really like the last two paragraphs.
Uh-huh.
I think specifically the quote, it's a matter of incompatibility and expectations.
Mm-hmm.
And additionally, D&D has a way of highlighting personal issues, and DMs can be poor therapists.
Yeah. I agree. I think incompatibility of expectations is a great way to say what we said, but nicer,
but succinct.
Yeah. And yeah, D&D has a way of highlighting personal issues for sure. And also DMs can be poor therapists. I'm also going to go on a ledge and say DMs are not therapists. Correct. And say, like, even though a session can bring up in you personal issues. Does not mean that it's the DM's job to help you heal from those.
Yeah, that's for professionals that you pay.
So I would say that if that does come up, and knowing that we're talking in this sense to a high school group, being like, yeah, so it's bringing up something that is making you feel a certain way, and that happens to everybody who plays D&D, I think, to some extent, but it is not your high school friend's job to make you feel better about those issues that are being brought up.
Yeah.
The original poster did respond.
Yeah. And I had a half thought before we just scroll down.
Yeah.
Zephyr SK, if you don't have a podcast, maybe start one. And also come on our podcast.
Yeah.
Whoever you are. Okay. Original poster responded.
Okay, I'll be honest, I haven't thought about it this way. Thanks, I appreciate the advice. I thought I gave absolute freedom to the party to do whatever they want, however they want, but I guess I have been a little too rigid with agreed upon rules. I guess you are right about playing souring after long campaigns, but is there anything I should do to mend this, or should I just end the campaign as soon as possible and do something else? I feel like you missed the point a little. I don't think Zephyr SK was saying that you were too rigid. I think, in my opinion, based on what you said originally, you were too flexible, honestly, and let a lot of stuff fly that maybe shouldn't have flown. But I think Zephyr SK's response to you was just like, hey, you can decide to TPK whenever you want. As the DM, that's like a thing you can do. Your campaign was maybe a little too long, and it's not your job to make sure the players are invested. Your problematic friend maybe has some incompatible expectations as to what D&D is supposed to be. But at
And,
no
yeah.
point did Zephyr SK say, you're too rigid and you needed to
Yeah.
loosen up.
Yeah.
Zephyr responded and said, if it's a sandbox world, try to figure out how many sessions you'll need to coast to a valid ending. Let the table know they can still roam, but all roads lead to Rome, which is funny because he used two versions of Rome there. Let the table know they can still roam, but all roads lead to Rome, and that you will have guardrails for the main story.
Right.
When you end, you can always have one-shots within the world where it makes sense for any player to continue as their character for that one or make a new one. You should strive for an ending for your own closure as DM, but as always, it is a group game. Talk to your table and take their temperature. And the OP said, thank you for all the help. I'll try to find a way to finish the campaign with a fitting end, and I'll have a conversation with my table and see how it goes. So I think OP took the wrong lesson necessarily, if that's really where they're sitting. But I agree with Zephyr in that, like, this is a lesson learned to maybe not just have a perpetual campaign. But like, think about when you start a campaign, think about where you want the campaign to end, and then put some like goalposts in between the end and the start, and they can roam and do side quests and stuff, but we're getting to this goalpost, and then we get to this goalpost. Like, have a start, a middle, and an end.
Yeah, and it might be helpful to like reverse engineer it. So like, what is that like fitting type of ending you want them to get to?
Right.
And then start making your goalposts backwards.
Right.
Yeah, I think that would be a better approach. Oh my goodness.
Torrance T. Bear also responded and said, D&D can be a deeply personal game if a player isn't having fun in a campaign for whatever reason. It's okay for them not to continue with the same play group. Your problematic player has made the choice to generalize the entire D&D game as ruined for them based on what sounds like the clashing of personalities in your group. It sounds like you've made a good amount of effort to mediate tension, but at some point it's okay to let players go who no longer fit or enjoy your party's playstyle. In the past, I've had to tell my DM that I could no longer play with a group because one or more of those players actively stressed me out and I was no longer having fun. Ultimately, either the one player will leave or everyone else will get tired of dealing with them and the larger party as a group will leave. If you would like to continue to have a friendship with said player, I would suggest reaching out with a genuine apology if you feel you did wrong in some way, or at least seeing if you can pinpoint the hurt or tension. Then finding other common interests or hobbies besides D&D to connect on. If D&D was the only reason you were still friends, maybe you weren't really friends after all.
I think that's also like a fair take and balanced piece of advice.
I wanted to highlight that one because it was echoing the like, hey, this player doesn't have to keep playing. If you like this group and you want to keep playing, that player does not have to be involved. And you can move on past that.
Yeah, I think it's something that's like really tough, but is really a really good lesson to learn. And you're only going to get better by practicing is having those really hard conversations. Is just starting and opening the door, because it's going to feel gross until you take care of it.
And it's not going to be the last hard conversation you're going to have.
Yeah.
So might as well practice. You know what I mean?
Practice. Yeah.
Okay. Shall we roll with it?
Yeah.
Okay. 1. What are you currently reading? Books, comics, magazines.
What a great question.
Oh, there they all are.
They're all right here.
Do you want to go? Oh, okay.
No.
Here's all of mine, but you go first. Yeah. Okay. So I am currently reading. I'm trying to decide how currently is currently. I'm reading 3 months.
2 months.
2 months?
1 month.
The first one I'm just trying to see which one it is in the series. I am reading. Sorry. 1,
You're
2,
fine.
3, 4, 5, 6. This is the 7th book. Yeah. the 7th book in the Outlander series, An Echo in the Bone. I'm still reading that. Will be for a while, I'm sure.
Those are bricks of a book.
I am also reading the Crown of Midnight from the Throne of Glass series.
Is that the second
one? Again, we'll probably be reading that for a while.
Is that one also thick?
No, it's much shorter than Outlander, but I am less interested.
Sure.
But I am pushing through it. In my to be read book pile, which I would like to start, but I'm trying not to take on 8 million books, is In Every Generation, which is a Buffy the Vampire Slayer book. And then I'm also, this is technically in my currently reading, but nonfiction is harder for me to like. I don't know. I've got too many books floating around is what is, but I started it. I'm also reading Atlas of the Heart by Brene Brown.
Love Brene.
So
haha.
Echo in the Bone, Crown of Midnight, In Every Generation, and Atlas of the Heart. I have currently 4 books that I'm trying to read. 2 of them are active. One of them I started a couple months ago and haven't picked up again, which is Atlas of the Heart. And then In Every Generation I have not started yet, but I would like to.
That's a lot.
Yeah. I don't read them all simultaneously. I will go through phases of picking up one. Yeah,
you've mentioned that to me. Like you'll take breaks and stuff.
Yeah. So right now I'm kind of in an Outlander mode, and I'll probably switch in a while.
Yeah. I have a couple of nonfiction books that are on my to be read list, but I just haven't gotten to them. One that I want to read. Well, there are 2 by Cal Newport that I really want to read. There's one called Slow Productivity, and then I'm forgetting the title of the other one. But so I to be read, but I'll start with what I'm actually reading right now.
Oh, okay.
So I already read the first in the series, Assistant to the Villain, but I'm reading the next book, Apprentice to the Villain. It's cutie. It's cutie. And then for my birthday, TJ got me the first volume of the Apothecary Diaries, which is currently being aired as an anime right now. But I really want to read the manga because I enjoy that. So I read the first volume of that, but I just got the second volume. So now I have that. And a series that I kind of read like you read Outlander. I take my time on it and I just go back and forth with it. Is a manga called The Case Study of Vanitas. And I have the 3rd volume right here. So I'm working on that one. But I also just got the 4th volume because I know that I will burn through it so fast.
Yeah.
So yeah, those are what I'm reading currently.
Nice.
And I want to read some Cal Newport books because I really like his writing style. And I like how he talks about productivity and slowing the hell down. So yeah.
The Outlander books are like 800, 900 pages, so those just take a while. But I am a completionist in that, once I've started, I have to just finish it. Otherwise, I feel like I can't claim it.
I got through part of the 3rd book of Outlander. For context, I almost said for context, chat. I got through part of the 3rd book, and then I stopped reading it. Katie and I
can't do not finish. I can't do it. Like the DNF thing, I can't do it because then it feels it feels unfinished. Yeah. And so then it just sits in my brain as something that's this is still on your list. You still have to do this.
If interest and dopamine go away, why finish?
Because the dopamine's in finishing for me. Okay.
Am I the asshole for targeting the tank of the group? So, love a comma.
Helps.
So I got a player who always complains that I target their character and I want to kill them off. All right, we're coming out swinging. However, they are playing a barbarian paladin, 2 separate characters for separate campaigns. So they're playing a barbarian in one and a paladin in another?
Yep.
Is that what I'm understanding? Okay. Who always charge into battle first and get surrounded by enemies. Said player also tries to flirt with the NPCs or tries to intimidate, kill them unless they do what they want. And tried to pull this shit with other players too. I'm tired with the fact that they try to kill or just straight up insult any NPC that I make. Any advice other than just to boot them from my campaign, which I am already thinking about.
Okay, before we get into any responses, you built a tank. The tank rushes in. The tank deals with enemies so that other players don't have to. So no, I don't think you're an asshole for targeting the tank. That's the point.
Yeah, that's the point of the role.
And in this last combat session of our own campaign, Tisiphone was downed several times.
Yarp.
Am I mad at Sam for doing that? No, because I'm a sorcerer that does damage to his enemies. That's in combat, a thing that I think is hard to remember as a player, but makes sense when you think about it. The DM, it's not a DM versus the players necessarily, like in terms of holistic mentality of like D&D, right? The DM doesn't win, right? There's no winning. Right. But what I do think is important to remember is the DM is controlling all of the enemies. And the enemies are going to do things that the enemies would do, which is try to kill you.
Just like you are going to play within what your character would do.
Right.
So too will the enemies.
For instance, if Sam wanted to, it would make a lot of sense to target TJ's cleric. Because if the cleric is down, the party can't heal. And as an enemy, not as Sam, as an enemy, it makes sense to make it so my enemy can't heal.
Yeah.
Because I want them to die.
Yep.
So that makes a ton of sense to me. Another thing that happens in Critical Role, which Sam was gracious and did not do to us, is once a player is down, continuing to target them to force death saves. Matt Mercer does that. Not all the time. It's not constant. But if a player is a particular asset or is doing a large amount of damage or whatever, and the challenge, the stakes are such that it makes sense for this to be a high stake game, he will hit a character once they're down and force them to lose 2 death saves.
He will put the pressure on because that increases the stakes. And
in that scenario, I do not think, and there are some critters out there who are, I think, out of line, who think Matt is a bad DM for that, who get mad at the DM for that. And I don't think that's fair.
I don't, yeah.
We've talked before in this podcast about how tension creates interest. And part of tension is combat and stakes. And at the beginning in session 0, you might need to have a conversation about what stakes are okay. Yeah. And if life and death stakes aren't your vibe, then you know that and you avoid that. But if the DM comes out the gate saying, I run games that are life and death stakes, and you agree to that, then there ought to be life and death stakes.
Yeah.
You know?
And now you know.
So as far as targeting the barbarian paladin, because they have built tanks that rush into battle first, I don't think you're the asshole.
Nope.
I think this said player tries to flirt with NPCs or insults them, intimidates them, kills them, whatever. These seem like 2 separate issues. One that is just player behavior and one that is you then targeting them in combat. If you are targeting them in combat because they're an asshole in role-playing moments, that is probably not chill. You probably shouldn't do that.
That's different. Yeah, that we would lean towards you're being an asshole.
And the way you resolve not being an asshole in that sense is instead of targeting them in combat as a punishment for being an asshole in RP moments, you pull them aside either during a session or after a session and say, hey, what you're doing here is not vibing with me. So we need to have a conversation about this behavior and come to a conclusion. Do you have other thoughts? Otherwise, we can talk about the...
No, I think you've said generally what I would also say is you're not an asshole. Since this is a short one, always we don't have all the context,
Right.
But I do think it raises not necessarily a red flag, but like maybe a yellow flag for me. That makes me want to start pausing that this player consistently tries to intimidate, kill, or like insult NPCs. And so I would just love to know more about that. Because that's giving murder hobo.
Ronnie Finn said, not the asshole with caveats. Enemies should target the characters they think are the most dangerous to themselves. Which is what I just said. Unless very highly trained and directed by a battle master of some sorts, in which case I can see them targeting more strategically. If a barbarian is right next to you and about to smash, and the barbarian's friends are not, it doesn't make sense to ignore the imminent threat. That being said, there is some room to assess if that is what ends up happening, or if there are multiple threats to the enemy vicinity, but they still not focus fire on the barbarian. Oof. Your post doesn't tell us if this is the case or not. Enemies probably shouldn't focus fire on a specific character unless they have a leader with them who is giving orders in general, or if they are being attacked by a single person. I don't fully understand that paragraph, but I would say the first paragraph made more sense, which is if there is an imminent threat to an NPC evil guy, then that should be the one that they are working on. If that player is not in front, so I'm thinking about the combat we just had. If we were all in the back and Sam was only focusing on one person with all of his dudes, that would feel bad. But if there are players that are engaged with certain enemies, they should hit those players. The rest seems to be an RP issue that should have been in session 0. On some tables, flirting and intimidating of NPCs is normal, and in some not. Sounds like there are lines here that are being crossed that you need to have a talk about. If they just didn't realize and change it up after they are politely informed, they're not an asshole. But without knowing the specifics, I can't judge on that. If you feel the need to boot them, boot them. The OP responded and said, so the first part, the players mostly fight either beasts, Monster Hunter style, or NPCs the player pissed off. Now, hang on. You mean to tell me that your only villains in the campaign are either beasts or this player has pissed off NPCs enough to require combat?
No wonder the enemy is coming at that player.
Yeah, well,
because you pissed them off.
And just also I don't know that we don't have enough context. Anyway, I understand that the difference of tactics between types of enemies. However, here is a situation from one of my sessions. Who will the raptors attack? The rogue hiding in the trees, the wizard and druid flying, the invisible sorcerer, or the barbarian who decided to run up to one of them and hit them? And about the role-playing, everyone knows the rules from session 1. Oh, I permit flirting and similar stuff, but I effing draw the line at BDSM shit that they pulled before.
You didn't mention that.
You didn't. No, you left that part out.
Yeah.
The player is between the first who joined my campaigns and brought with them many other players. I don't know what that means.
Okay. So they are one of the first players that has been in their campaign, and they've brought other people to the table.
Sure.
Essentially.
So you say everyone knows the rules from session 1. I permit flirting and similar stuff.
However,
did you talk about BDSM stuff?
Yeah.
Because here's the other thing I'm going to say. Stuff like that could just like come up in role playing. Like improv is improv, and so it is possible that I think it is entirely possible that this person said, "Wow," and just like did something crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And if that was if you're gonna, we cuss on this podcast. If you are gonna fucking draw a line at BDSM shit, that needed to be talked about.
Yeah.
Unless
Because you said I allow flirting and similar stuff.
Right. So
where is BDSM in that?
So if session 1 you said, hey, I permit flirting and similar stuff, but I do not permit like sex scenes and like getting into kinks and stuff like that,
mm-hmm.
then that's a very easily drawn line that like now we are all on the same page. But if that first session you said, yeah, flirting and stuff is fine, then
that's it.
That you didn't leave, there's no other hand to that. So I'm not saying I would do this, but if I'm in a session and I'm like, bow chicka bow bow, I'm gonna sex this character, here I go, and I start to narrate it, and that is now crossing a line, but I didn't know that that was a line that was drawn, then you can't fault me for that, number one. And number two, what I would expect to be the DM's reaction is pausing the scene actively pausing the scene that is happening, saying like, hang on. And if you think it's appropriate, at the table saying, hey, this is a line that I think I need to draw. This is a scene that I'm not feeling super comfortable with. But it also then might require a conversation one-on-one with that player afterwards to be like, hey man, I'm sorry for like cutting you off. Because like if it were me, that would feel very like uncomfortable to be the player that got shut down. Yeah. So I would want a conversation afterwards. It's like, hey, we didn't talk about this during session 1 and we definitely should have. And I'm sorry for that. It's not personal. I was not trying to come at you. This is just like a thing that I don't feel comfortable with. Yeah. It sounds like there is more drama underneath this that you're not including. But I don't think you are the asshole for targeting the tank of the group. If they run up and hit a raptor and then get hit back, that's just the consequences of their own action. If you are targeting them because they are crossing lines in RP that you don't like, that's a shitty thing to do and you shouldn't do that. Ta-da! Ta-da! That's it for us this week. Thanks for spending time with us today. Thanks to Noah Trumbull for the use of our theme song. There's a link to his Instagram and in the episode description. So be sure to give him a follow and all that good stuff.
If you're enjoying the show, there are a few things that we would love if you do. First, leave us a review because reviews help other listeners find us. And secondly, follow us wherever you get your podcasts so you can get to our new episodes easier. Lastly, follow us on Facebook and Instagram to see what we're up to and be the first to know when an episode drops. Also, subscribe to us here because that is a really big help to the channel, and give us a like also. I haven't included that in an outro in a long time. Yeah. Or ever, I guess is what I meant to say. But when you do those cool things, you can be the first to know when a new episode drops.
So true. We also want to hear from you. Did you disagree with one of our rulings on if they were in fact the asshole? Do you think that high schoolers should learn grammar? If you do, or if you don't, you could email us at chromaroses@gmail.com. And we will respond as quickly as possible. It's CHROMAROSES@gmail.com. We can't wait from here we can't wait to hear from you.
This has been Chromatic Roses. I'm Soren.
And I'm Caitie. Be nice or else, assholes.
Caleb.